This video will try to give you an introduction to the program itself. So it is this Unit 2 game demo program. This is the starter code for the student, excuse me, not the teacher. I'll close the teacher program. It's comprised of one package, the game, and inside that package there are 7 subclasses or 7 classes. They can all see each other. The game window class is responsible for the main method. And this is all the compiler knows how to do. Now it looks very short, and frequently the main method is actually very short, but the main method will reference other objects that start larger processes moving. So this main method creates the constants that hold the width and height of the window that the game will take place in. Creates a JFrame object, which I'm not going to get super into right now. If you'd like to know more about it, you can look at the game shell tutorials that I posted earlier. That'll give you a sense for how this program was built from the ground up. Java Swing, which this is a part of, the JFrame class, is not covered on the AP test, and so I don't want to spend too much time on it. If you're passionate about it, by all means, go ahead and learn about this stuff. We may get to it specifically later, depending on how the year goes. Suffice it to say, though, that these lines of code create a window, the pop-up window, set some attributes, which are fairly self-explanatory if you look at them, and then they hang this, an instance of the game panel class, which is this class. They hang that on the window, so the game animation and interactions can take place in that visible space. Like I said, the game panel class is sort of a main class for our game, and it has lots of stuff. So this is the long-term memory, or all the things that the game panel class needs to do its job. You can look over that, and some of it will make sense and some of it won't quite yet. That's okay. The parts that you're going to be responsible for, obviously, are things that will make sense. Duh. So the game panel class is able to listen to the keyboard, which these lines of code help with. And then the init method here just initializes all of the fields, which is one thing that you're going to be working on. So anytime there are fields of a class, and the fields are just, again, the long-term memory of a class, and I'll go into that more later, you want to initialize that value somehow in the constructor, so you can see the init method is called in the game panel's constructor method. Now a lot of this stuff is like a little bit too in-depth right now, but I'm trying to give you a sense for how these things work. Anyway, but let's get on to the meat of it. So the game panel class this is its main method. And without looking at anything else in the game, we can talk about what a game is, basically. A game is just a series of still frames, pictures, that produce the illusion of movement, or that represent the movement of objects around the program. And so what do you have to do to create a frame of animation? Well, you have to update or change the positions of things, change the positions and other attributes of various objects, like the player and enemies and rockets and explosions. Then you have to draw them to memory, and that's what this method does. It probably should be named create image in memory. And then the repaint method is a strange term, and again, I get into it more in the game shell tutorial, but that basically just, well, it does just display the image that we drew in memory on the actual screen of the computer. This try catch block down below, which you'll see occasionally, simply asks the computer to pause for 20 milliseconds after it creates each frame of animation. The purpose of this is if it goes as fast as it can, the screen will flicker, and we also want a consistent or mostly consistent frame rate. So 20 milliseconds of pause creates a frame rate of close to or approximately 50 frames per second. And this stuff down here just happens once the game is over. It just draws it one last time and then quits. So that's really kind of how the game how these classes are built. They'll make use of the player class, which you're going to finish, the rocket class, which you're going to finish, the enemy class, which is done, and the explosion and particle classes, which are responsible for the little explosions on screen when the enemies get hit. I think that's plenty for this video. We're going to get into more detail later, in the subsequent videos, and I'll make sure that I clarify pieces of this puzzle that you may not be so comfortable with quite yet.